Live from a studio apartment, this is Misinformation. We're back. We're going to have a great show tonight. It's going to be a lukewarm show. Little rusty. I forgot how to do all this stuff, actually. All of the studio, the restream, etc. There's actually a lot of stuff to do to set up this friggin' show. There's a bunch of different softwares that connect to the this and the that. So anyways, kind of tried it out tonight, see if I can get back into the hang of things. But yeah, it was good. I took a little break. I'm writing an album. Just a little kind of creative break to do that stuff. But I felt that Gotham needed me. I see some weird stuff going on, including the Supreme Court with 2 big deuces they dropped recently. I hope this is working, by the way. I'm just like, wait, is the sound working? Is it this? I think we're good, though. So, we'll start off, well, let me pull these guys up, too. Let's see if we get the chat going. This is going to be a figure it out as we go along. Okay, that's pretty good. So we got that. Okay, some jokes. Let's do some jokes.
Some jokes. Let's do some jokes.
There's like an echo in my ear, and I don't. That's what's happening right now. It's going through this, but I don't know how to turn it off, so we're just gonna try it. Okay. Well, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of mail-in ballots. Yeah, they said elections are now based on FIFA rules. The refs just get to add a random amount of stoppage time. Yeah. Really unfortunate for Spencer. It was tough. The Supreme Court also ruled to uphold birthright citizenship. Yeah. Marking the worst week in court for white people since the OJ trial. That was a rough one. Well, if they come in on a ship, you must grant citizenship. That's what the attorney said. The Democrats, of course, applauded the decision, and noting their belief that a fetus is just a clump of cells until it crosses the border. That is the point at which, as we all know, it becomes a life. I don't know what what the Spanish says, by the way. It could be like leftist messaging. I would have no idea. I can't read Spanish at all. Anyways, let's see what's going on here. I'm pulling up the TikTok crowd. Yeah, a couple of viewers. It's cool. Okay. I don't know how to get this echo to stop, though. Wondering can you guys hear an echo as I'm talking, or is it just me through the thing? Be off. Maybe in a setting? Is there an echo here? Just in here, maybe? Alright, we'll try it. We'll keep going, I guess. Alright,
Just in here, maybe? Alright, we'll try it.
oh, maybe it's that. Maybe I just needed to mute the computer. Audio. Okay, well, we'll kind of forgo this for now. In any case, what's going on in the news? Let's pull this stuff up. I like that I've just had anyone joining right now is like, why is this man sitting here with a fetus crossing the border on the screen for 20 minutes uninterrupted, just talking to himself? Let's get the fetus off. Okay. So, two decisions from the Supreme Court earlier in the week. The first was with mail-in ballots, obviously. Here's my thinking on both these decisions. Not to spoiler alert it, but I do kind of feel like I would expect these decisions to go that way on both of them, and I'm not sure that there was much else that you could do on either front. I think that both of the cases with the mail-in ballots and the birthright citizenship, you know, if you're asking the Supreme Court just to interpret what they're reading in the Constitution as kind of faithfully as they can, it's hard to, you know, you really have to make a case to persuade them to overturn it. You know, it seems like super reasonable for them to make the interpretations that they did. So first off, I guess let's start with the mail-in ballots. So I like that there actually are a couple of swing justices on the Supreme Court. It's full of swingers. You got Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts. Those are the two main ones. I like my Supreme Court to be able to go either way. Sounds very sexual the way I'm describing it, but I like them to be able to, like, you know, I believe there's a lot of people saying that they're biased. The biggest reaction I see online is like Republicans being like, "Oh, I hate Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. They always side with the other team, etc." And I don't like the idea that the Supreme Court is a team sport, that we're expecting all of these people on our team to side with us one way and all the other people should side the other way, right? I get that that's how it's kind of operating, right? The dangerous thing there is you have the other justices, the three justices, Sotomayor, was it Ketanji, Brown Jackson, I think, Kagan, I think those are the three, who seem to always side with the leftist opinion, right? So you very much do have kind of a team block on one side, which is difficult. But I like the idea that the Supreme Court, you know, I feel like if you were elected to that, or nominated and put in that position, I feel like the people who enter that position understand the gravity of the situation, or at least I would, and understand that they're there to interpret the law and the Constitution as best as they can and make as reasonable of a decision as they can. I understand that doesn't always happen, but that's how I prefer it. So I don't mind them swinging either way. Now this week we saw two big decisions come down against what you'd call the conservative team, right? But these are also the same justices who repealed Roe v. Wade, right? So those swing justices do actually swing in either direction based on what they believe, right? Or so it would seem. With the mail-in ballots thing, I have some grok pulled up here on why they got rid of it, but essentially they were just saying that the federal statutes do select a day for voting, but they don't outline a specific period by which votes need to be counted. And in this specific case, it was actually a case about whether or not a certain state could count votes up to like 5 days after an election, right? which I think there is precedent for counting votes after election. I don't think it's ever been codified that votes needed to be completely counted by midnight on election day, right? Now, what it's turned into over the past couple of years is a debacle. It's basically rife with fraud, where you have this ability of what seems to be mostly the Democrats right now, extending elections to, it's not no longer an election day, it's like an election season where they're going to count votes up through. I just realized I'm probably going to get banned on TikTok for discussing this. Damn. If you even talk about the elections like at all in vote counting, they pretty much like get rid of you. But in any case, they've extended it to like a voting season where, like with the LA mayor's race recently, I mean, they were counting votes, all of a sudden like a week later the entire vote flips, and it's like, yeah, sure, maybe that was all legit, but it certainly sets up a situation where it's giving you plenty of time to look at how many votes you would need. It's encouraging the type of system where you would rely heavily on ballot harvesting, which is legal in California. And then it's not really down to like who's actually going to draw the most enthusiasm and the votes on election day. It's who can really like get the signatures out on ballots and get people to return them, right? Or just gather them together and drop them off. So what it's become is bad, but we've never had the precedent that votes need to be counted by midnight. It just hasn't been treated in this extreme of a way in recent years. So to ask the Supreme Court to suddenly interpret this very narrow law in a certain way and to make this very big sweeping ruling that election day is election day is, I think, a little bit too much to have hoped for or to have asked of them. Which is why governing by executive order doesn't really work in the end, It was only a couple of years ago when presidents really started doing this with the executive orders, which, if you don't know, that's basically where a president, they don't go to Congress and try to pass a law if they want something done or something changed. They can just basically issue an executive order, shoot it out into the country, sexual again, I know, and it goes into law. Except every time they do that, it's going to get challenged in court. One of the lower courts is going to reject it. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, or certain cases will. So the whole idea of governing or having a presidency by executive order is, you're taking these shots and you're hoping that the Supreme Court sides with you on some of these things, or a great percentage of them. Because specifically, that you probably don't have the support to get something like that passed in Congress, which is the difficult part. So in both of these instances, the mail-in ballots decision and the birthright citizenship case, the right way to go about it actually is the legislative process. That's what would fix this. And it would codify that into law going forward, unless they were able to rescind it in later years, right? But without the ability to do that, you're just basically hoping for the Supreme Court to stretch, make a big interpretation, and kind of save you without having to go through that process. So with the mail-in ballots, you have the SAVE Act, right, which is stalled in Congress. Now, I'm not sure why even Republicans are voting to not pass the SAVE Act, but one can only determine that whatever system of fraud or kind of finagling is going on where these politicians get their votes, they kind of want to keep this status quo for whatever reason, right? They're not willing to pass these voting safeguards. And unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in. And until that changes, this is unlikely to change. I'm going to do a little sketch that I'll post on social media about, like, I want to have it be like Democrats find a late batch of ballots and they're like, oh, for the mayor's race, and they're like, no, the 2024 election. Turns out Kamala won. Like, now, I think that'd be funny. But it's not that far from the truth. Like, they can basically extend these things as long as they want and keep it going. They could throw wrenches in the actual election from passing and, basically scan and see how many votes they need to acquire to win, which sucks. So there are a lot of people saying that the Supreme Court was pushing leftist policies and stuff like that. Here's somebody, Hans Machnick. Barrett is the biggest conservative judicial disaster since Soter. The difference is that few conservatives expect much from Soto, whereas Barrett was supposed to be the future of the court. See, I don't like this kind of... I understand that that's kind of the world that we're in, but I don't like this whole like, oh, we elected someone, they're supposed to be on our team, and they're voting against us. I like the court to be as impartial as possible. In an ideal world, it should be. And you should have certain justices who are kind of in the middle and swing one way or the other, right? Regardless of what side you're on. Because at a future date, you don't want the court to be completely Democrat and rule that way, right? You want it to sort of swing either way. But I do feel like Coney Barrett, I keep calling her Comey Barrett, like a blend of James Comey. But I feel like she has taken a lot of heat. And I don't really feel like it's about her. In the, people were dunking on her for the birthright citizenship case as well. That wasn't even a 5-4 decision. That was a 6-3 decision. Even Brett Kavanaugh concurred with the majority there, right? So that's someone who pretty staunchly votes on a lot of conservatives, with a lot of conservatives. And even he's saying he couldn't vote to approve the birthright citizenship thing. So I don't know that it comes down to her. I don't know also that, if you're Trump or any president, you can make the best picks that you possibly can to find a judge that you think is going to support your values, but you can't determine how somebody's going to vote on each individual subject for decades to come. That's impossible. They're human beings, My hope is that whatever Coney Barrett decides on certain things, that she's actually using her intuition and voting to the best of her abilities on what she actually thinks is the correct interpretation of the Constitution. That would be my hope for any of the justices, right? But, the world that we live in, it is kind of, you can't really expect humans to be unbiased. So it does make sense to try to, if you're a conservative president, to appoint conservatives, right? Jack, this is on the birthright thing. I'll come back to it. Fisher King on X says it's not the end of the world. He says, yes, I looked quickly at the decision. I wouldn't freak out too much about it. SCOTUS answered one specific question. Can Mississippi count ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but received up to 5 days later? It's not the end of the world. He's essentially saying they're making it a narrow ruling. They're not codifying into law that mail-in ballots forever are acceptable, which makes sense to me. It is pretty specific, and that's the problem again with the executive orders, is you're expecting the Supreme Court to come in and make a big, broad interpretation of something, and when they're not able to do that, you feel like you lost, right? This was a funny tweet about Amy Coney. Oh, this isn't even the right one. Where's my friggin'... Anyways, people were doing memes on her, but there was one meme whenever Coney Barrett votes on a swing issue, and it was her with a septum piercing and like blue hair. It was pretty funny. So birthright citizenship, that was the other big deuce from this week that people are happy with. I'm not happy with it. I don't think we should. Well, I'm a little bit... I will tell you my honest opinion on the birthright citizenship thing. I'm against it, generally, right? Because of the vulnerability it leaves us in, wherein suddenly you can't control immigration because anyone can come here on birth tourism, give birth on U.S. soil, and that kid is automatically an American citizen. At the same time, I do find it kind of beautiful, this idea that anybody on U.S. soil is an American citizen. I kind of just like that, all right? I just wish that, I don't mind that idea. I just wish that we had a better ability to mitigate the whole birth tourism thing, who's coming into the country. Stuff like that, right? That was my whole beef with the border being super open under Biden. I'm not interested in, do we have too many brown people or white people, or what is it? I'm interested in security and safety. And if you have a country, the only way to keep it secure is to somehow place checks and balances on who can get in and become a citizen, right? So, but again, this was one of those cases where Trump issues an executive order and you're hoping that the Supreme Court is able to make a very broad, kind of out of left field interpretation, sort of reinterpret this 14th Amendment, which if you read it, I understand the intent behind it when it was originally made was to make the freed slaves American citizens. You're born on U.S. soil, you're a citizen. That makes sense. I even understand that at the time, I guess the people who were drafting the 14th Amendment supposedly put in this verbiage, not in the actual amendment, importantly, but when discussing it or something, they were like, oh, of course this won't be used for temporary immigrants or people like that. Ended up, fast forward, it is being used exactly like that and exploited, right? But the actual way that it's written in the Constitution is just anyone born on U.S. soil, subject to the jurisdiction of, which was the big sticking point, doesn't seem that big of an argument to me, is a U.S. citizen, right? The whole under the jurisdiction of, I mean, if you're just reading that, what's that sound like to you? It sounds like just anyone born in the U.S. and subject to our laws. That's the pretty easy, obvious interpretation of it. To get 5 judges on the Supreme Court to reinterpret the whole thing is a bit too far. You know, I didn't think that was going to happen. Some reaction to it. You have Phil Labonte here saying, gonna have to do it the hard way. Issue no visas to pregnant women. If a woman has a child here, she can never be considered for any kind of visa or green card for the rest of her life. No visas for family members of the child ever. I mean, I understand this idea. I just don't know that it's practical to screen people for are they pregnant or not. You know, it seems a bit like, yeah, that's great in theory, but is that something you can actually ever enforce? Probably not. This was, I think, the most interesting part of it all was, and Jack Posobiec points this out, Justice Kavanaugh. So this wasn't a 5-4 ruling. It wasn't like the mail-in ballots where it's split right amongst lines and only Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts swung the other way. Actually, Brett Kavanaugh joined them in the concurrence on this one. So it was a 6-3 decision with a very, many would call conservative justice actually siding and saying, yeah, I can't reinterpret the 14th Amendment, right? But interestingly, he did write a partial dissent about it. And in Kavanaugh's dissent, he brings this up. He says, in my view, the executive order does not violate the 14th Amendment, but the order does contravene a federal statute. He lists the statute here. And then he puts, importantly, Congress could, consistent with the 14th Amendment, so it's still in line with the 14th Amendment, Congress could amend this statute he references or enact some new type of legislation establishing exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens unlawfully or temporarily in the country. But Congress has not yet done so. So what he's saying there is he's kind of, with a wink and a nod, telling you how you actually can get around the 14th Amendment, you know? There's a lot of people online saying, oh, now that the Supreme Court denied it, the only way around it would be to pass another constitutional amendment. The problem with that is not only do you have to have like overwhelming majority in like both houses to pass an amendment, any amendment to the Constitution has to go to the states and get ratified by, I think it's something like 38 out of the 50 states, right? So there's way, like, you don't have enough conservative states, it's way short of 38, to actually have it ratified enough to rescind the 14th Amendment or alter it or do a new amendment. But Kavanaugh's pointing out here, you don't actually need to ratify a whole new amendment. There is existing law that would work within that same framework, which Congress could enact new legislation to fix it. But same as the SAVE Act, they don't seem interested in doing that. So all hope is not lost. If you're completely against birthright citizenship, there are workarounds and there are viable things that you could do to get there. It just takes a little bit more legwork than tossing out an executive order and hoping for the best with the Supreme Court. That's going to be tough. Then you're basically just asking, 9 people to decide the fate of the nation. And they're not going to do that unless they truly believe they can interpret it a certain way. That's at least my hope. I know Ketanji just sides with leftists. I get it. This was the justices here that people are mad about. I retweeted this. I said, how HR looks at me when I know I'm about to be fired. which is true. That's exactly the look. All smiles, and I know I'm done when I walk in the room. Happened to me quite a few times, actually. Lots of people online railing against women, trying to make it into an Amy Coney Barrett thing. All 4 women voted to uphold it. There were 0 women involved in the creation of the Constitution, yet there are 4 today. I just don't think that this argument gets you anywhere. I don't think it's useful, and I don't think that it is accurate because, again, Kavanaugh even sided with the other justices. So there may be some truth to it. Certainly, women do lean liberal on a lot of issues. But I don't think that it comes down to, oh, we have too many women on the court or this or that. And I think it's a weak argument that just makes conservatives look bad. This is, again, this guy Anomaly, I guess, often seems like an idiot to me, to be honest, with his opinions. I understand you have to do, like, outlandish, big opinions for YouTube and stuff like that. But, I mean, here he is still talking about COVID, lockdowns. You know, it's, 6 years later, and that's the point that he's bringing up. Today is the perfect GOP summary. They won a sports thing that should have been easy to solve without the Supreme Court and lost a consequential birthright citizenship decision that is 100 times more important because Trump picked a female pro-lockdown judge during COVID mania. Because Trump picked a female judge who was pro-lockdown. I reply right here, it was 6-3. Was Kavanaugh also a bad decision? Of course, he's not going to reply to that because it makes more sense to do the big opinion that's going to get people on your side. I just don't think it's accurate. Again, to get people to swing and reinterpret an amendment, it's going to take a lot more than just an executive order, in my opinion. Trump congratulated China. This was his tweet about it. I would like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win. Which is true. This was my tweet from today because I guess there's Fox News is reporting the Social Security Administration is releasing a new commemorative Social Security card for anyone born this coming year. For America's 250 anniversary, it's got the 250 right there. And I just pointed out. America's future CCP president per the SCOTUS ruling. I hope our future Chinese Communist Party president still has his 250 commemorative Social Security card from when he was anchor babied into the country in 50 years. We'll probably have AI rulers by then, though. I don't think that the CCP will be as much of a problem. Unless China wins the AI race, which is tough. What else? This is just a short show. I'm just getting used to the technical stuff again. So, I'll be back tomorrow. Should get a little bit better as I get more used to it. But in any case, what else we got? We had AOC saying she's going to run for president here. Or she sounds like she's going to run. We'll discuss this. We'll discuss my betting. Let's talk about betting. Before we get into AOC. Actually, we'll scooch back here. Tapuria. Oh, God. I just need like a standard search. X search is still the worst. Tapuria. Did you guys see this happened while I was away on sabbatical, the Tapuria Gaethje fight? Here's Tapuria here. He looks like from that Beauty and the Beast movie from the 80s. Beast. 80s movie. He looks like that guy. That guy right there. But in any case, so I actually won like $600 on this fight. I bet on this one. Bet for Gaethje. Saw it coming. Couple of reasons. I'll give you guys kind of my reasoning on that. Why I thought Gaethje would pull off the upset. So that bet was like, I think, a 12 times multiplier or something like that. It was something like that. Crazy. I wanted to bet a lot more money, actually. I can't remember. I think I bet late or something like that. And I only had 50 or $100 or whatever I bet on it. But, yeah, I won like $600 or $700. So, biggest things that I was thinking going into this fight, Topuria is obviously a beast. I still think he's a beast. He's really good. But I did not like his pre-fight celebrations. He famously would, like, the night before the fight, he celebrates with his whole family, like he's already won and all this stuff. Which is funny because I'm a big manifesting guy. I do like people that, like, when Conor McGregor manifests stuff, I believe that that's true. I believe it helps you achieve what you're trying to do. So I'm big into that. But the way he was doing it was kind of schmarmy. It was kind of a little bit, oh, I'm just better than you. You know, he's already, like, he's got a bunch of money. He's with all his friends. He's popping bottles. I just didn't like the whole look of it. I thought it was in bad taste. So I don't like that. So I don't like Topuria. Going into this fight, he's coming off a lot of time off and a divorce. Whenever you see a fighter with either of those two things, a lot of time off and they're coming back in, even if they're a legend, it's shaky. Because you never know how that ring rust is going to manifest itself, right? Plus, he had a very active wife who was always kind of seemed to be there for his fights and really, like, pushing him to win, right? And when you lose a bitch like that, it's tough to pick yourself back up. So I was like, okay, he's not coming in fully there. And at the same time, I saw Gaethje, who's can, number one, take a shot, right? Topuria, his whole thing was he'd go in, he'd hit guys with one shot, like one well-timed, well-placed shot, and it would pretty much knock them out. The thing about Gaethje is watching him, you could see he can take a hit, and then he'll do this weird thing where it's like, even if he's almost getting knocked out, he'll throw up these crazy counters that kind of come from, like, low up high, and he'll, like, sort of sail them up over at angles. And they seem to really hurt guys, because I've seen a lot of fights where he looks like he's about to get knocked out, and then he clocks some guy all off balance and stuff. And I was like, dude, if Topuria goes in there and thinks he's going to hit him once and then rush in and finish it, he's going to get hit with one of those shots. So that's what I thought was going to happen. And plus, Gaethje's just so unorthodox. Everything he does is just so weird. I was like, I don't know that Ilya is going to be ready for this war. So I bet on Gaethje. I won. What I did not expect was actually how well Gaethje controlled the pace of the fight, just with jabs, really hindering everything that Topuria was trying to do, and actually managed to damage his eyes pretty badly, which is why I think by the point they got to the third round, Topuria is all of a sudden getting hit with big straights, you know, following jabs, because I don't think he could see anything. So anyways, I won that. Here's oh, where did it go? Do I have it? Let's search it here. It says AOC. I don't know if it'll be the right video. There we go.
In an interview that he thinks you are going to be the leading Democratic candidate for president in 2028. What's your response to that?
I mean, you know, I hope he is. That's what I'll say.
That he's the Republican nominee? Yeah.
Okay. So there you have AOC basically hinting that she is going to run in 2028. Now, if you're a betting person on Kalshi right now, all I'm saying, this isn't financial advice, but you can bet who you think the next Democrat presidential nominee is going to be in 2028. And I think it's like 13% odds on AOC right now. So if you bet $100, you win like $800, pretty much, right? I wish I had more money. I'd bet on that all day long. It's clear to me that AOC is going to be, barring any unforeseen circumstances, the next presidential nominee. I know they're talking about Newsom. I know she's a little far left and they would prefer someone maybe more center. I don't care. She's got way too much charisma. And here's the thing that people don't understand. I see conservatives talk about it like, oh, she could never, and she's too dumb, and her policies don't make sense. People are tired of the woke. The problem is that the qualifications for being a good president are completely different from the qualifications for becoming a president. The qualifications for becoming a president are just be charismatic. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. That's why a lot of actors become presidents, okay? Ronald Reagan, lots of people are saying, by the way, that AOC herself is kind of an actor. She does have some old, like, kind of theater-y looking videos, but apparently there was like a casting call where the Democrat Party was looking for potential candidates who had charisma. They found her brother submitted her application. They basically cast her in this role as Congresswoman. But that's the thing, is to get elected, all you need is charisma. And how could you have more charisma than this right here?
Be the leading Democratic candidate for president in 2028. What's your response to that?
I mean,
First of all, she's sexy as fuck. I mean, look at that little smirk and everything. You got a hot chick who's charismatic and is actually really well spoken and persuasive. Really tough to beat her. So I can't see anybody else getting the nomination. We'll see how it shakes out.
I hope he is.
But
That's what I'll say.
He's a Republican.
if I come across a little extra money, I'm going to be betting on that cow shit bet. I'll take it. Try to win me like 20 grand 2 years from now. We'll see what happens. What was the last thing I bet on? I forget. I don't think there was. Oh, I bet a little bit on the U.S. to win the World Cup. I don't know if that one will pay off. That's definitely not betting advice, but I do feel like it's not a bad shot. And I know at the time, I think it's still around this. If you pick the U.S. to win the World Cup, it's like, I put something down like $100 or something on them. If they win it, I get like $2 grand. Now, I know it's really improbable on that one. But when I'm looking at that, I'm like, the U.S. is playing pretty good. And since I made that bet, which was a couple weeks ago, they've been beating more and more teams. They just beat Bosnia-Herzegovina tonight, right? In pretty deciding fashion. I think they lost a player to a red card, were down one man, and still scored a second goal to solidify the game. Like, that's pretty good. And defended it against any goals, right? Still doesn't say they're going to win, but as President Trump likes to say often, America is the hottest country in the world right now. This World Cup is on home soil. It is our 250-year anniversary, and you got Team USA playing pretty well so far in the World Cup. So I like their odds. I think it's a little bit better than what I see being advertised. So those are the types of bets that I like. The asymmetric bets that have some maybe unforeseen upside to them, or reasoning why you might think the odds are a little bit better than normal. So I like those odds. What else we got? AI is ruining everything. You guys seen this video? Speaking of soccer, this is... It's really funny. This is a soccer player from, I don't know even what team on the World Cup he's on. But this happens to me more and more frequently now. As I'll be scrolling through Twitter, I'll see what looks like a funny video, like funny real life happening. It'll make me laugh out loud. I'll love it. And then when I look at the community notes or something, I'll figure out it wasn't real. This didn't happen even a year ago. A year ago, you could tell still like what videos were AI and which weren't, or you'd heavily suspect it. Now I see things and I just buy them 100%. And then there's this denouement, this like coming down when you realize like, oh, that wasn't actually a real thing. Because sort of what makes these types of videos good is they're funny and they're remarkable, because they're this like low odds thing, really remarkable, that actually happened to someone, right? So you know it's real. When you find out it's AI, it's like it didn't really happen. And so it's almost like masturbating, you know? feels good while you're doing it, but then right when you orgasm, you realize it was never really real, and you just feel like crap. So I don't know. I see this every day with the AI stuff now, and it's really ruining like videos for me in general. Like, just I used to love like seeing amazing videos or extraordinary things or really funny things, and now most of them are just fake, or you can never really tell what's real anymore. So it kind of sucks. This is, by the way, this is a video of some other guy. Here's the original video that it's from, which I don't even think the original video is real. It's like a content creator or something like that. Could see him here doing some like acting. And I guess they just AI superimposed the other guy's face over his. So, super lame. What other tech stuff we got? This is the terrifying future of AI for us. The sea urchin robot.
Legs and eyes all around. It can walk, climb, look, follow, and manipulate objects in every direction. But Argus isn't just another robot. It's built to sense and interact with the world in a completely new way.
Yeah, imagine that thing just crawling up an alley wall towards you.
At the core of Argus is a concept we call dynamic symmetry.
It's kind of almost, what's startling is like when people think about the future of robots, you think about humanoid robots, right? But actually, like, the most efficient robots may be something like this that looks totally alien, almost like a cell or something, right? Or a virus, but it can move way better than other robots and is sentient. And that is terrifying to me. So, in fact, really the only reason to make robots humanoid is to make people comfortable with them, really. You're just trying to not get people to freak out. And so you could have sex with them, obviously. You know, I would not want to have sex with this. There'll be like Middle Eastern men having sex with these behind the barn.
The robot can generate forces and accelerations almost equally in every direction.
What else we got? Video of Elliot Page boxing. Elliot Page looking jacked. She's had her testosterone, you can tell. Actually does look pretty fit in this. Yeah. A lot of people are clowning on her. There was a funny post. I'll just show it here. This was my favorite of the funny posts. Dyke Tyson. I thought that was really good. That made me laugh. But I gotta say, you know, I'm into boxing, MMA, fitness. I love it when anyone does stuff like this. So I really just am impressed when I see how well she moves in there. And there's other female boxers that I've known who can really, like, I got cracked one time by a female boxer. She was like a Golden Gloves boxer. She cracked me pretty good one time. Just like light sparring. But I saw a little bit of the flickers. I saw a little blue flash and I was like, damn, dude. These girls can, if they know what they're doing, they can hit sometimes. So I just appreciate it. So good for him. Good for her doing this stuff. I think, you know, I got to say, if you're going to commit to the transition, become a man and all that stuff, and really live that life, this is what I want to see. I want to see you training MMA and boxing and really doing it. So let's see it. Now I'm actually like a little bit impressed. I'm actually a little bit like, okay, let's see what you can do. Let's see you box a little bit. You believe in yourself. You're this committed to it. Let's see it. I'm down. Plus, it's really cool. It's good for fitness. So, fun. That's pretty much it for tonight. Just a show to get back into the swing of things. What's up, Whale Oyewol? It sounds like the most like, it sounds like a Scottish name or something. A Whale Oyewol. Whale Oyewol. Woolly. What's up? I'll do some jokes again for you. before I leave. Whale. How do I get this gone? Let's get that out of here. Okay. Oh, come on. Allow. I think we're good. Coming at you, whale. Oh, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of mail-in ballots. Yeah. Yeah, they said elections are now based on FIFA rules. The refs just get to add a random amount of stoppage time. Yeah. It's too bad for Spencer Pratt there. Well, the Supreme Court also ruled to uphold birthright citizenship. Yeah, marking the worst week in court for white people since the OJ trial. That's a rough one. Yeah, if you come on the ship, you must grant citizenship. That's what the attorneys argued. Well, Democrats, of course, applauded the decision, noting their belief that a fetus is just a clump of cells until it crosses the border. That's right. That is when life begins. Once you cut that umbilical cord through the fence. That's all I got tonight, whale. I'm just going to leave the fetus, the newly American fetus, up. I'll be posting more this week, just getting back into the swing of things. I'll do these shows Monday through Friday, probably. So you can turn on notifications and stuff if you like them. Anyways.